Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We'll start with introductions. I'm Dale Stein, Chair. Erica?
Erica Goodman, voting member.
Darren?
Darren Hickling, voting member.
Dave?
Dave Grass, Vice Chair, voting member.
Over to you, Brian.
Sure. Just to make a note that Scott Ryan, voting member from NYACD, has a conflict this morning, won't be able to make it. He should be able to log in prior to the ethics training this afternoon. Okay, I'm going to go through our advisory members at this point. Anybody from the agencies that I call out, if you are present, just go ahead, take your phone off mute and introduce yourself. Anyone from Ag and Markets?
Morning, Brian. This is Jeff Keogh.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you. Anyone else from Ag and Markets? Okay. Brian Rahm from Cornell Cal said that he has a conflict this morning, so he's not with us. Val also has a conflict, so note that Cornell Cal's is not on. How about Cornell Cooperative Extension? Okay, CDEA.
Hey, Brian, Dustin Lewis, President CDEA.
Dustin, thank you. Welcome. Good morning. Okay, DEC. Who's on from DEC? All right, I note Asim Kumar is on, but he might have some audio issues at this point in time. How about Department of Health?
Good morning, this is Morgan Tarbell.
Good morning, Morgan.
Morning.
Morning, this is Paul Kazmarzik.
Good morning, Paul. Welcome. Department of State.
Good morning, this is Stephanie Wojtowicz.
Good morning, Stephanie.
And Kate Hogle.
Good morning, Kate.
Morning.
Blake texted me this morning. He also has a conflict, but wondering if anyone else from USDA, NRCS is on the line today. Okay, and Steve Shaw also emailed me this morning to let me know that he has a conflict. So now I'll go through our staff. Victor?
Morning. Victor Giacomo, Regional State Committee Field Staff for Western New York.
Good morning, Vic. PJ Emmerich?
Hi, good morning, everybody. PJ Emmerich, Regional AEA for Region 2 in the Finger Lakes area.
Good morning. Good morning, PJ. Greg Albrecht?
Morning, Greg Albrecht, AEM Program Coordinator.
Good morning, Greg. Ryan Cunningham?
Hey, good morning, Ryan Cunningham, Regional Field Rep for the North Country.
Good morning, Ryan. Ron Bush?
Morning, Ron Bush, CNMP Specialist with the State Committee.
Good morning, Ron. Brendan Jordan?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Brendan Jordan, CNMP Specialist with the State Committee.
Morning, Brendan. Scott Fickbaum.
Good morning, everyone. This is Scott Fickbaum, Region 2 AEA for Central New York.
Good morning. Good morning, Scott. Jennifer Clifford.
Good morning, Jennifer Clifford, Climate Resilient Farming Program Manager.
Good morning, Jennifer. Ben Luskin.
Good morning, Ben Luskin, Region 5 AEA for the Hudson Valley and Long Island region.
Morning, Ben. Lauren Przorski. Bethany Bizdew.
Morning, Bethany Bizdew, Program Manager with the New York State Soil and Water Conservation Committee.
Good morning, Bethany. Abigail Edwards.
Good morning, everyone. Abigail Edwards, Excelsior Fellow with the State Committee.
Good morning, Abigail. Tim Clark.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Tim Clark, the engineer for the State Committee.
Good morning, Tim. And big welcome to all of our guests today, all of our conservation districts and members of the public. Too many to introduce all here this morning, but welcome. And as I mentioned before, throughout the meeting, please, if you've got anything that you want to provide, any comments, thoughts, or questions, please go ahead and just take your phone off mute and go ahead and address the committee. If you're not speaking, we just ask that you keep muted throughout the meeting. And thanks again, welcome, and back to you, Dale.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Next on our agenda will be review and approve of minutes. Do we have any changes, corrections? If not, motion to approve, please.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Moved and approved. We'll go to voting. Erica? Dave?
Yes.
Darren?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. Any correspondence or updates, Brian?
Yeah, sure. I don't have any correspondence today, but I would like to just share some staff updates. We are still working to backfill what we're calling the program analyst position. That is the position recently held by Jason Coquinos, the position that provides data management, GIS support, and program analytics support for the state committee. We went through one round of interviews. We're unsuccessful at being able to fill the position. We're going through another round of interviews this week. One significant change to the position description in working with HR, we realized that recruitment is difficult for sure across the board everywhere, both public and private sector. But we ended up changing the description of the position for location to be determined, realizing that for this type of work, program analysis and program technical support, we've got a wonderful staff throughout the state serving remotely. So we are also, sorry about that, my daughter's phone just took over the speaker. So we are looking at hiring the best candidate, and we could have the position remote if we do need to. So the location is to be determined. We did get a little bit more interest as a result of that. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have an update for everyone and be able to announce the next incumbent for the position. For the division, we're also going through recruitment for our administrative support position, and that has also been challenging. We just concluded another round of interviews a couple of weeks ago, and we made a recommendation to our Human Resources Office to offer the position, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to fill that position. That will be vital to administrative support across both units of the division. For the state committee, it would be somebody to help Maureen out with maintaining our email listservs and our correspondence and networking between our conservation districts, and also helping out with other committee logistical support. So we're hopeful by, again, next meeting, we'll have an announcement to make on that as well. And Dale, that's all I have.
Thank you, Brian. Next is Ag Non-Point Source with Bethany.
Thank you. So I do not have any amendments to present to the state committee today, so I will just be giving a brief program status as well as an update on where we are with round 28 of the Ag Non-Point Source program. So in general, the Ag Non-Point Source program currently has 151 active contracts. We have 43 contracts that are pending execution. Those are the contracts, I guess, that were awarded through round 27 of the Ag Non-Point Source program. We're still working to get those contracts going and get those fully executed. To date this year, so far we have completed 33 contracts closeout for the program. For round 28, the solicitation for applications closed on May 2nd. In response to this round of funding, we received, or 80 applications were determined to be eligible for scoring. Of those 80 applications, we received applications for funding for 105 farms. 50 of those farms are considered new participants. That was a new question that we added to the application this round, and we asked, if there were any farms that had not received funding through the Ag Non-Point Source program previously. Special thanks to Abigail Edwards for going through all the applications to kind of track down the responses to that question. But districts indicated that 50 farms had not received funding through the Ag Non-Point Source program previously. Of the 105 farms, 38 of them are CAFO farms. 16 farms indicated that they would be applying to implement cover crops for a total of 10,277 acres. We received applications for 22 covered heavy use areas, 54 waste storage and transfer systems, and 33 applications indicated that they would be implementing riparian buffer systems. Of those, we received applications for approximately 28 acres of riparian forest buffer and approximately 29 acres of herbaceous buffer. So reviewers, after the application closed and we completed our review for eligibility and completeness, all of the applications were provided and forwarded on to a panel of 6 reviewers. Scores actually were due back to me on this past Friday, so June 17th. We have a post-review meeting scheduled for June 27th to discuss the round of funding and potentially discuss any applications. But we do hope to have a ranked list put together, and we hope to bring it to the state committee meeting in July for review and approval. Are there any questions regarding the Ag Non-Point Source program?
Not a question, but Bethany, thank you, and thank you, Abigail, for putting all that information together in such short order. It's always amazing to hear the details on proposals even before we review them and have them in our database. A lot of work goes into that. So thank you both. Thank you for the update.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is a climate resilient farming program with Jennifer.
Good morning. I do actually have a presentation just to go over some of the updates for CRF. So, Bethany, I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully that is being viewed.
Yep, we can see it.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so I had a few things to provide updates on, so I thought it would just be easiest to kind of put something down in a few slides. So a really brief program status for climate resilient farming. We've had 8 closeouts so far with a few still pending, and we had our final closeout in round 1 occur. So that round is completely closed out, and Abigail's helping go through those closeouts to kind of provide some stats to share at a future meeting, so we can kind of look at that round as a whole. I don't have any CRF amendments for the committee to review today, but just 2 to note that occurred in 2022 so far is that we did have a landowner change for round 5 project that Skylar SWCD is doing. It was a landowner change due to the farm being sold to a new owner who is committed to the project. The BMPs being implemented are access control, prescribed rotational grazing system, and a riparian buffer. And then we also had an equipment change that was approved for a round 5 project that Essex Soil and Water is doing. The equipment change was due to the farm using tillage radishes to deal with soil compaction, so they no longer need the proposed equipment. But they are going to purchase equipment that does relate to the practices that are still being implemented for soil health, particularly related to cover crop termination and soil amendment practices that they are doing under the grant. So that one was kind of exciting that they found a way to deal with the compaction through tillage radishes and the cover cropping, and that's no longer needed. We did have round 6 close for CRF. We received 69 applications in total. 13 million was requested, and we have 8 million available for this round. We did offer a new participant bonus or benefit that 35 participants were reported as new participants. 24,302 acres of cover crops are being proposed in the applications that were received, as well as 44 acres of riparian buffers. And that is an estimated total of 961,300 metric tons of CO2 equivalent per year emission reductions in the proposed for all of the applications that we received. So just as a reminder, that new participant benefit is 5 preference points that we'll be adding to the final aggregated score. And a new participant is something we defined as a farm operation who has not been awarded a CRF, Ag Non-Point Source, or AIM-based implementation grant thus far. And the purpose was really to help drive new participants to the program and increase diversity, equity, and inclusion for CRF, and really help scale CRF to reach a diverse set of farms across the state. So that new participant benefit did bring in new participants, new farms, as well as we had a few new districts apply this round. So that was exciting to see. So round 6 funding, we did combine 2 fiscal years, 2021 and 21-22, for a total of 8 million available to award. Within the 3 tracks, we have 4 million available for cover and flare projects, 2 million available for water management, and 2 million available for healthy soils, for a total of 8 million. Within each of those tracks, we do have a mechanism to move funding between tracks if it's not all awarded, that was set aside. So all 8 million will be awarded by the end of the awards being announced. But what was requested was for cover and flare, about 1.9 million was requested. Water management saw The largest increase in requests at 7.2 million, and Healthy Soils saw also an increase in requests for 4 million. So comparing to round 5, we received 47 applications in round 5, so we had a nice big jump to 69 applications. There were 22 soil and water districts that applied in round 5, and we had 32 apply in this round. So we definitely saw new participants from districts.
Yeah.
In round 5, we had 110 farms that applied, and this round we had 134. So also a significant increase. The total state funds requested in round 5 was about 6 million, and we had a big jump for round 6 to 13 million. And so those total project costs were 8 million or 8.9 million in round 5 and almost 18 million for round 6. So a lot of the outreach that we did and announcements for the expansion of our round 6 really helped pay off, seeing the increases in all categories. For round 6, the per track stats break down like this. Track 1, we had 4 applications and 4 farms for an ask of 1.2 million or 1.9 million in state funds and total project costs of 2.9 million. Track 2 is the water management. We had the most applications submitted for this track with 39 applications, including 54 farms. The total state request was 7.2 million, while the total project cost was 9.6 million. And then track 3, which are our soil health practices, we had 26 applications submitted, including 76 farms. A total state fund request was about 4 million, with total project cost being 5.3 million. So all of the proposals have been screened for eligibility and completeness. All of the applications were received on time and components were submitted. We did have a pre-review meeting with the reviewers that was held on 6/13, and the reviewers now have all the applications and review is underway. So all 69 applications that were received are being reviewed. Scores will be submitted in July so that we can have a ranked list to be presented at the state committee meeting in July. So that was the updates for our round 6. Sorry, I didn't need to go back. We have, moving on to the working group meetings that we've been having, just a brief update on those meetings. Last state committee meeting, we talked about the need to, possibly bring in some of our partners and talk about feedback for potential expansion of CRF.
Hey, Patrick, the 8-inch elbow and the apron, we'll take those.
Hey,
Oh,
John,
Hey, John, you gotta mute your line.
yourself.
I think you realized
Thanks.
it. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Jennifer.
No problem. So these are the working group meetings that we've had. The ones in bold are the ones we have yet to have, so we're just about halfway through. We had a district-focused meeting. We had a meeting focused on livestock, alternative manure management, and precision feed, forage, and herd management. We had a meeting focused on adaptation and resiliency. And then the 3 we have yet to have yet so far are the soil health and nutrient management meeting, a meeting focused on agroforestry, and then one focused on urban agriculture and more non-traditional agriculture. So this is just a little outline of what we've been covering in the meetings, starting off with talking about the Climate Act targets. and how these focus areas kind of fit into those proposed targets. And then looking at the review of the goals of the CRF program and how CRF may currently be addressing those focus areas. And then really the bulk of the meeting is opening up for feedback on what can be done to better address the focus area that meeting is on. And then opportunities to diversify CRF through measurement, monitoring, reporting, verification, research, design, and development, and diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. So of the meetings we've had so far, we've had an average of like 34 participants per meeting with really robust conversation. We've run out of time at each meeting, so it's been really constructive feedback that we've been receiving. Just a hint of some of the feedback we've received is some potential need for manure management tours for farms and technical assistance providers. We've had some great focus on soil health tours across the state, and maybe something similar for dealing with manure management systems. And just more education and technical, excuse me, for technical service providers and farms on climate smart practices and AIM. A need for easy planning tools for farms and soil and water districts. And really, it's clear that these are all complicated topics that don't have any one answer to solve the issue. So it's been great to hear a broad range of feedback. So that's just a brief update on those working group meetings. And once we finish the last three, I'll have some more feedback that really relates more to how we might make some changes with round 7. At a previous state committee meeting, we had approved using $820,000 for a contract for dairy emissions measurement and monitoring project. This contract will run from this year, 2022 to 2026, and that contract is currently under development. It'll be run by Cornell Pro Dairy and Ithaca College. And the research includes greenhouse gas emissions, particularly methane and nitrous oxide, monitoring from long-term storage of dairy manure under different pretreatments, methane loss detection from anaerobic digesters and covered long-term storages, as well as measurement of greenhouse gas emissions from manure and digestate separated solids, sorry. So really, what does that mean in deliverables? It means that we'll be provided a report summarizing methane leak locations at the anaerobic digesters and covered manure storage systems that they're going to be looking at, and methane leak detection protocol for consideration, as well as recommended maintenance routines specific to methane leak avoidance and detection, and a presentation to the state committee kind of summarizing all of this research and deliverables. So that was all I had. Happy to answer any questions about any of the topics. I covered a lot there, so happy to back up if need be.
Any questions, anyone? No comment on the last presentation that was working group talking about issues. We're in the process of installing our satellite covered lagoon. They should be at it full time next week. I offered that to Brian, that if anybody around the state wants to, any of the districts want to bring a farmer in to see what it looks like, they would be more than welcome. So I will be notifying Brian when the company is here full time working, and he will put out an email to all districts and anyone else that wants to look at it to see what installation looks like, and so they have a better idea if they have a farmer that might be interested. And the only problem would be that you'd have to let Brian know the day you want to come, only because if it's next week, we're going to be chopping second cutting all week, and I just have to have notice ahead of time, rough time, so that we knew when someone was coming to take them there, because it's a mile away to their satellite storage, is not at the main farm. But everybody would be welcome, whoever wanted to come and see the installation and see what it involves. And we're definitely going to have to get more farms doing this, because I can see we're way undersubscribed on that part of the program. So it is a real push the state would like to see done. So we need to get a lot more participation if we can. Great.
Thank you for that,
Well
Dale.
done.
Thank you. And
Okay, Brian.
And we'll get that notice out as soon as you've got some more details. And with that also, Dale, so districts and if they've got farmers that are interested as well, are they okay to bring farmers to?
Oh, yeah, they can bring farmers too. Yeah, it's not just districts. The farmers can come to see it. If the district can't come, they can notify the farmer, and the address will come out in the email, so they can just come. It's open to everybody to see. We need to promote it if we can.
Sounds good. Well, we'll collaborate on the message out there to districts just to make sure we've got all of our logistics covered. But that's wonderful, Dale. Thank you very much for that. And thank you, Jennifer, for an excellent presentation. And just to see the amount of demand as a whole for CRF increase as we combine 2 fiscal years to offer $8 million. As you can see before that, our highest level request was $6 million. So when we got together and discussed merging 2 fiscal years into one, and CDA was on the line and said, "Don't worry, Brian, we've got this. We'll really increase our outreach and level of participation." You guys sure did. So many thanks to you on all that. I look forward to seeing a ranked list and descriptions of projects as we move forward. And the amount of cover crops was really outstanding as well, as we continue to offer cover crops across all conservation committee programming for various purposes, whether it's water quality and soil health, or greenhouse gas mitigation, climate adaptation, and soil health. It's really nice to see that we're starting to consolidate around one program offering. And again, just to remind everybody, we have the soil health policy that covers all of our programs, so it is consistent across. So that was really wonderful to see as well. And just
Brian?
to point out one more. Oh, yep, go ahead.
I just wanted to jump on to Dale's offer. We can also offer here in Cayuga. I have a liner going in with a cover on an existing storage. Should be starting in July. And so I can definitely let you know when that's going on. Anybody in the area that wants to swing out and see how that's going. I think we're going to try and get a time-lapse camera set up so that we can do the whole few-week process. And then we also have another one that may be going in September. So if people are looking for those type of opportunities to see that stuff going in, that Cayuga County, just get in touch with me, and we can certainly have you out on a site visit.
Excellent.
That's great, Brian. Thank you for that. Really appreciate that offer. Yeah, I think we need to do more of that, obviously. Demystify it a little bit. That's great. Really appreciate that.
And if we can get them around the state so people don't have to travel long distance to see it. Maybe if we can find out if one's going to be going maybe up in the North Country or something, maybe we can get that offered too.
Great. Yep, I agree. Excellent.
Anything else, Jennifer?
I was just reminded by staff. I see a lot of district board members on the line today, and I want to make sure you all get credit. We certainly do our best to make sure we get your names and affiliations for our minutes. But if you can put your names and affiliations into the chat, that way we can ensure that you get credit for your attendance here today. And that goes for any of our partners as well. Apologies that we don't have time in the beginning to go through introductions, but thank you. If you could just put your names and affiliations in the chat really quickly, that would be great as we transition to the next topic on the agenda.
All right. Next on the agenda is the Climate Resilient Soil Act discussion. Brian.
Okay, thank you. I will share my screen here. Bear with me for just a moment. Okay, setting up the slide show here. You should be seeing my screen.
Looks good.
Okay. Just make sure, oh, there we go. Okay, a little delay on my end. Wonderful. Well, this is kind of a bit of a summary and a repeat from a presentation that we offered earlier this year, but I thought it was worth discussing again here today, as the Soil Health and Climate Resiliency Act took effect just yesterday on June 20th, 2022. So I wanted to just remind the committee what is in that act and discuss what we're currently doing to be in compliance, and what more the act asks us to do, and what we were planning to do anyway, as it makes good program policy and good sense to move forward to continue to get feedback from all our partners across the state. So without any further ado, I'll just go through this really quickly as a summary of the act. All right, I'm going to cut my video, I think, because I'm having a hard time with bandwidth. If you just bear with me again, I apologize. Okay. Okay. So the Soil Health Climate Resiliency Act passed the Assembly on May 25th, 2021. Shortly thereafter, passed the Senate June 8th of 2021, was signed by the governor on December 22nd, 2021, and it was recently took effect again just yesterday, June 20th, 2022. Key components includes definitions, defines soil health, defines a number of other provisions within the law. That's always helpful so that we have a clear understanding of the terms and terminology of the law. And then it describes a soil health initiative for the state, also describes a climate resilient farming initiative, and describes soil health research. In short, the Soil Health Initiative, the department in cooperation with the committee, is charged to develop efforts to promote and encourage soil health in urban, suburban, and rural communities. By this promotion and encouragement of soil health, we'll be minimizing soil erosion and sedimentation, managing and optimizing soil health to mitigate and adapt to climate change. We'll be increasing our infiltration rates and water holding capacity. We'll be able to manage healthy cycling of soil nutrients. We'll also be doing so with the gathering of stakeholder information, stakeholder guidance, conducting meetings, and also receiving opportunities for public comment through our current partnerships, but also focusing on historically marginalized producers, not-for-profit conservation, and other environmental organizations, as well as the environmental justice community. So we'll be working on this outreach plan here in the weeks and months ahead to ensure that we are indeed seeking and receiving stakeholder input as we move forward. And also importantly, under the Soil Health Initiative, and this is certainly something that we've been given a lot of thought to, establishing the appropriate voluntary standards and objectives for soil health and quality. We have a long-funded program that Cornell University heads up called the Soil Health Initiative, and that will be able to assist us in the establishment of these voluntary standards as we move forward. So we're looking forward to working on that. The Climate Resilient Farming Initiative, again, very similar language to the Soil Health Initiative, encourage agricultural producers in urban, suburban, and rural communities to reduce the effects of farming on climate change through the promotion of BMPs, best management practices for climate mitigation, as well as soil resiliency, and very familiar to how we have set up our current programs that will be informed by state policies, USDA, NRCS, standard specifications, and guidance, as well as research conducted by New York State Institutions of Higher Education. And these BMPs shall be approved by the New York State Soil and Water Conservation Committee. Again, our BMP practice catalog is the way that we structure this type of approval. So this is certainly nothing new to the way we implement our programs. Also familiar as we've made the connection to all of our current programs, this will all be coordinated under our Ag Environmental Management or AEM program framework. The soil health research provisions. We shall make practical information from soil health research to ag producers in urban, suburban, and rural communities with the goals of increasing the percentage of farmers who utilize, implement, adopt soil health best management practices, and also promote the scientific understanding of how those practices relate to soil health and carbon sequestration. Again, we've got a good start here through our work in our partnership with Cornell University, and we'll be pursuing, getting that information out at a more regular basis through our meetings and in other venues. The Act also adds Section 4, Paragraph J to district law to read as follows: to coordinate and improve the participation of the several districts in support of soil health and climate resilient farming, as set forth in Article 11B of Ag and Markets Law. And also the chapter amendments, actually I should have updated this, that were signed by the governor and now in the law, is that we have the power, State Soil and Water Committee and the Commissioner to promulgate rules and regulations to prescribe such forms as each shall deem necessary to effectuate the purpose of the law. And we also negotiated the start date of the law to be June 20th of 2022. The rules and regulations piece is important for us in that the language in the law, promote and encourage best management practices, promote and encourage soil health, provides a great framework, but not a lot of specificity to just how we will promote and encourage these types of activities. So we are currently working with the department. Counsel's office has assigned an attorney with us who is very familiar with the rules and regulations of the state of New York in the process to promulgate those. So we are working on developing a draft that we'll put out for public comment and hold hearings either as a part of state committee meetings or separate across the state as well, to provide the public with opportunities to comment and seek that feedback. So stay tuned for that. We'll have more regular updates at state committee meetings as we move forward with that effort. So I already, I believe, mentioned a bit of this, but how does this fit within current initiatives? As we just heard from Jennifer Clifford, the Climate Resilient Farming Program cost shares opportunities for soil health, climate mitigation, climate adaptation, best management practices. Certainly, we have the Ag Environmental Management Program that is well established with consistent implementation through our AIM-based program. Of course, we have the Ag Non-Point Source Abatement Control Program, specifically focusing on water quality, but with many co-benefits, including soil health and climate resiliency. And certainly we support our soil and water districts through those programs, but also through the State Aid to Districts program, which provides technical reimbursement, project funding, and performance measure support for districts to help increase capacity to scale up adoption of soil health and climate resiliency practices. And of course, we are very engaged with our districts in outreach and technical assistance and training opportunities. And as Jennifer also talked about, we are engaging with other stakeholders as well as we expand our climate resilient farming program. So you'll see these models continue to move forward and increase as we seek additional feedback from groups as prescribed under the law. Again, feedback that is absolutely vital and critical as we expand our climate program, not just in climate resilient farming, but all programs throughout the state under the Climate Act, with social justice and disadvantaged community support being very much a focal point of the Climate Act. So moving forward, as I already mentioned, we'll be seeking stakeholder engagement opportunities. We will be developing those opportunities. We continue the soil health research and outreach work with Cornell University. We'll make more of that information available at regular state committee meetings. We talked a bit already about how we can expand our AEM and associated programming to help urban and suburban farming. And as Jennifer pointed out, we're going to be focusing on those activities again, coming up with a working group meeting. And the soil health standard aspirational goals. We've been giving some thought to that. The Cornell University Soil Health Characterization Report really providing a basis for a lot of how we might develop that soil health standard and aspirational goal. And that's all I have. Again, a bit of a repeat from before, but certainly worth bringing up again as now the act is effective. And certainly, as mentioned before, we had a pretty incredible head start. The law was certainly written with current efforts in mind, but also the need to expand those efforts and scale them up and make sure that our work is more accessible to build diversity, equity, inclusion. And we're excited to bring regular updates to the committee as we have been, but as they also now relate to the Soil Health Climate Resiliency Act in monthly meetings. So I did mention that this was going to be a discussion as well. So I believe we do have some time and certainly want to use that time to take any questions, certainly get anybody's thoughts and discussions as we move forward. I'm just going to stop sharing so I have more capability here, but I can go back to the presentation if anybody would like me to.
Does this act have any engagement with homeowners doing some of the same things?
It specifically focuses on agricultural activities, but the soil health certainly could expand beyond that. And a lot of work with districts already in that space, whether it's landowner assistance outside of agriculture.
Yeah, I just think a lot of the issues.
I'd say not specifically, but could.
Yeah, around some of our lake issues isn't necessarily agriculture related. It's more homeowner related. I'm just,
Yep, understood. Certainly within the power of soil and water districts to work on those issues, not necessarily specifically related to this act, but important nonetheless. Thank you, Darren, for that question.
Brian, this is Nick Klimchuk from Schenectady County. Did I hear you mention that there's a working group for the urban agriculture initiative?
You did, Nick. Yep, absolutely.
Who's
would you like
part
to
of
be
that?
included in that?
Yeah, that'd be
Jennifer,
awesome.
do you? Yeah, absolutely. Schenectady, certainly. I think there's great opportunities there. Jennifer, did you take note of that?
Yeah, Nick, I can include you. We're going to have a meeting. Right now, we're just having one-time meetings, nothing long-term at this point. But for Urban Ag, that one's going to be on July 7th, and the invite will be coming out very soon.
All right, great. Yeah, I'd love to be included. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, and any feedback that comes out of these meetings and can be incorporated into program policy or the next RFP will certainly go through the committee in the normal process. So there'll be additional opportunity for the public to weigh in as well. But Nick, thank you for that. We'll make sure you're included. And also along the urban agricultural front, and again, it says the department in cooperation with the committee. There's going to be a lot more support for urban agriculture throughout department initiatives. Our Ag Development Division is working on a program to provide support. So again, it doesn't necessarily all have to be within the committee structure and the committee programs, but certainly I think there's also an opportunity to increase our engagement with urban agriculture. Certainly as conservation districts have provided great information to us on what they're currently doing through other programs. There are ways that we can expand our support, and certainly USDA NRCS is doing a lot of work in the urban agricultural space as well through the committee and their input. We'll also be able to gather a lot of good information and provide that information out to the public on what's being done both with state and federal support and programs. Any other questions or thoughts? Well, certainly more to come. We are also planning, we're planning a meeting with our soil health team at Cornell University, really kind of dive into the research, dive into the outreach activities and the soil health testing activities that are being done, supported by that work. Again, that is a sub-allocation through our climate resilient farming budget line item. And, we're just really debating right now whether we do that as a standalone or whether we try to host a comprehensive Cornell University meeting like we have in the past with various departments who provide support, technical and scientific research support to the work that we do. So stay tuned for that, but likely will be sometime early fall, September, October timeframe.
Thanks, Brian. No other comments
Thank you.
on it or questions, anyone? If not, we're going to move on to the advisory reports. And I'll start with the voting members. Erica?
I don't have anything to update at this point.
Thank you. Dave? Anything report, Dave? Oh, I can see you said no. I didn't hear the voice, but I can see you. Okay, Darren?
I think I'm all set today, Dale.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Brian, over to you.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll start out with our advisory members who are present here today. If you've got anything to report to the committee, here's your chance. Starting off with Jeff, Ag and Markets.
Thanks, Brian. Let's see. So we have county and municipal farmland protection plan grant monies available. First come, first serve. Most municipalities, if they haven't participated before, are eligible. And counties need to wait 10 years before they're eligible for up to $50,000. And finally, this Thursday, the Land Trust Grants Round 4 is going to close. It is undersubscribed. However, we were getting some newer land trusts that haven't participated before, and I really like to see this. We're getting some all-volunteer land trusts that receive up to $50,000 to advance municipal and county farmland protection recommendations. This round happens to pay for appraisal projects on proposed conservation easements. So instead of the landowner and the land trust going through a lengthy and unknown competitive process before they're able to even get an award, let alone a current value on their property's development rights, these appraisals allow them to best understand the value of their farm as well as the value of their development rights. So we feel that it's really important to get that information out there. So that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate that update. Okay. Cornell Cooperative Extension, Beth, welcome. Do you have anything for the committee?
No, excuse me. No, nothing to report at this time. Thanks.
Okay, Beth, thank you very much. CDEA, Dustin?
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, we've been continuing work and meeting on the recruitment and retention question with our partners. A lot of work going on there, and we'll continue to work on those projects through future meetings. We also have our administrative conference we're planning for the fall, which we're hoping to planning to bring back. I think it'll be a big success. We got a lot of administrative staff that's looking for specific trainings that maybe aren't available as some of the other trainings that we do. And then we also were planning on meeting for discussions on the four-way partnership MOA, and we're having to reschedule, but we're still moving forward with that, and hoping to get back into a current MOA in the future here fairly quickly. Just something I think is very important to make sure that we're all on the same page with our partnership and how we operate. So, and thank you for your participation in both the recruitment and retention meetings and the future MOA meeting there.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah, apologies for having to be part of that reschedule. The MOA memorandum of agreement. If you recall, Dale, a number of years ago, we signed into that agreement with our four-way partnership at a water quality symposium, and yeah, I do agree that it's time to take a look at that agreement, make any necessary adjustments and edits to it, and move forward. Just as you said, Dustin, all to be on the same page.
Yep, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, DEC. Anybody on from DEC have a report for the committee?
Hello, good morning, everybody. My Asim Kumar from DEC. Actually, I have received a document for NWQI from the NRCS, and I'm reviewing it. It's already been reviewed by a couple of people in DEC. Other than that, nothing else to report, and I just submitted on Friday my scores to Ag and Market. Thank you.
Thank you, Asim. Really appreciate yours and everyone's continued participation, commitment to our programming. Certainly couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you for submitting your scores on time. All right. Appreciate that, Asim. Anyone else from DEC join us today? Okay, Department of Health.
Yeah, morning, Brian. This is Paul.
Morning, Paul.
Marzik. And just one thing to report, and that is the 5-year revision to New York City's filtration avoidance determination has been written. It's out for public comment. There were really not many substantial changes to the document this time around. The public comment period was extended by 45 days. The new closing date on public comments is July 1st. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. Morgan, anything to add?
No, I'm all set, Brian. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Department of State. Stephanie, Kate.
Yeah, just one update or just reminder that there is funding available through the CFA this year, through the local waterfront revitalization program, our smart growth community planning and zoning grant program, as well as our brownfield opportunity area planning. Through the LWRP funding, watershed planning is eligible, as well as implementation projects for those already existing watershed plans. So the CFA is open through July 29th, 4 p.m. So just wanted to throw that out there again. And hopefully you got the scores that we sent in on Friday as well. And I think that's it.
Thank you for that, Stephanie.
Unless
I
Kate has
appreciate
anything.
that very much. My phone just locked up on me, so Awesome. And that CFA, that also includes the water quality improvement program from DEC as well, right?
I believe so.
All right. Consolidated funding application is out. Well, thank you for that update. Really appreciate it. Thank you also for your commitment to our programs and getting your scores in. That's wonderful. All right. A lot of work with 2 programs being offered at the same time. So really appreciate it.
Sure.
Kate, anything to add?
Oh, she's on mute. I can hear her,
Oh,
but you guys.
no worries. Okay. All right. Appreciate it. We're going to go through some staff reports as well. So I'll call you off. If you got anything to report to the committee, please feel free. Victor?
Brian, just a quick update in regards to the urban agriculture presentations that were made to the state committee staff and voting members a couple months ago. I wanted to make the voting members aware that Erie County was awarded an NACD Urban Agriculture Planning Grant. That contract, I believe, starts this July, and that planning will begin very soon. So that program continues to grow for Erie County and a few other counties in that region as well. That's all I have.
Hey, Victor, that's a great update. I really appreciate that. As they were reporting on that back in February, that will really help them increase their presence in their urban areas and develop a plan for doing so. Really appreciate that. That's great news. Congrats to Erie County. And thank you to NACD for their support of this as well. Yet another partnering organization out there that is providing resources and support for urban agriculture. Great to hear. All right, PJ.
Great, thank you everybody. Business as usual here in Region 2, but I did want to highlight something. We have a training event being held July 13th, the soil health training at the Rodman Lot Farm, and I believe Jason from Cayuga County Soil and Water is on the line, so I'll let him go into more detail, but I just thought that may be of interest for folks in and around Region 2. Other than that, that's all I have to report at this time, Brian.
Well, thank you, PJ. Appreciate that. Jason, do you have anything to add to that?
Hey, Brian, Jason from Cayuga. How are you today?
I'm great. You, Jay?
Oh, good as always. Always lovely to see your face.
Well, it's lovely to see your name on the screen as well.
Well,
thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Anyway, yes, we do have a upcoming event July 13th at the Rodman Lot and Sons Farm over in Seneca County, Seneca Falls area, formerly where the farm show was for the last 30 plus years. But yeah, we have a pretty good event coming up. We got a couple speakers. We got John Wallace from Penn State University. We got Allison Chetterin from the Cornell Climate Smart Farming Program. And we also have a farmer panel. So we'll have DEC credits available, also with the CEC credits available as well. Of course, there will be free lunch. So
nice. Well, it's great to see, we're able to have these soil health events again. Greg just dropped in the chat the information for the Summer Full of Soil Health Field Days from Cornell Districts and New York State Soil Health Program. So take a look at that, everybody, if you've got an opportunity. Jason, thank you for that update. That's awesome.
Thanks for giving me the time.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Okay. I am going to move on to Ryan. Ryan, do you have anything for the committee today?
All set today, Brian. Thank you.
All right. No problem. Thank you. Ron.
Hi, Brian. Although we don't update the state committee on everything that we're working on, we do want to highlight that we've kind of brought the band back together. We're doing a statewide tour through all of the regions on working with our new district employees, and it's a great opportunity for experienced folks or newer soil and water district employees to meet each other and attend these events, which are basically introductions to the AEM program. And at these trainings, we focus on how to talk to farmers, understand the AEM program, all of the key concepts that really build the foundation in the earliest tiers, tiers 1, tiers 2, tier 5s. I mean, it floats all the way around, but we just wanted to highlight that we're hitting all of the 5 regions. June has been a busy month, but we're trying to squeeze them in, and it's been pretty exciting. We just held one last week in the North Country, so just a quick update there. And you know, thanks to all the district partners and our AEAs for help organizing those. And it's really great for these new employees to meet their peers, kind of find their place in the world here in the district world, and then meet the state committee staff, which is more than willing to support them in many different facets of planning or implementation. Thanks, Brian.
Oh, thank you, Ron. Thank you for that update. Yeah, that's absolutely a great update and worth noting for the committee. As Dustin was just talking about, you know, we're really focusing on recruitment of district workforce, and then of course making sure that we can assist in getting folks trained up and able to do the jobs that they're there to do. So that's just one example of what we're doing to help support that effort. I really appreciate that update, Ron. And thank you and the entire staff for helping to put those together and for executing them. Great. And I think that was also in support of Greg's comments and thoughts as well. And going to be asking Greg to present on the next month's agenda, so we'll give him a bit of a pass. But Brendan, do you have anything else to add to that?
Nothing to report other than to just say alongside of what Ron said, the trainings went really well. Glad to be a part of them and have some great conversations with some staff out there and travel around and see people again. So just a great opportunity and like I said, glad to be a part of it.
Great. Well, thank you, Brendan. Appreciate that. Okay, Scott Fickbaum.
Hello, everyone. I guess the only thing of statewide significance that I can report on is that we're going to be starting compiling the CREP report, the annual CREP report, a little early this year. Try to give folks a little bit more time to maybe assemble some of their thoughts on paper regarding success stories that districts have had with working with FSA and NRCS and implementing CREP projects across the state. But also a chance to document needs, anything that districts or our partners feel like they could use in order to increase enrollment would be also helpful. And then further along that spectrum, what folks think are challenges that they've encountered, you know, in almost any venue to getting folks enrolled in the program. So this is going to be going out in the near term. So I just ask folks on the line, field personnel, and anybody representing a district to give some of that some thought. And if you're in a CREP eligible county, to respond to the email with your thoughts. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, Scott. It just occurs to me we got some new folks on the line today. Elevator pitch, what is CREP?
CREP is the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. It's administered by the Farm Service Agency, and the technical lead is NRCS. I should say, the state committee is a party to a CREP statewide CREP agreement, whereby districts feed potential participants into the program. Land eligibility is determined by FSA. Technical assistance is provided by NRCS. And essentially, these are, well, there's a lot of practices. I won't go through them all, but the most popular ones seem to be practices that take place within the stream corridor. So various kinds of buffers, forest buffers, vegetated herbaceous buffers, wetland buffers. There's, I think, some grassland practices as well. So it's a three-way partnership between the three agencies, FSA, NRCS, and the districts, and results in long-term contracts where land is put aside, put into these land uses or BMPs The participants get signing incentive payments, practice incentive payments, as well as long-term rental payments for the land that's occupied, at least for the term of the contract, which is 10 or 15 years, although I think right at the moment there's an opportunity for a 30-year contract through USDA's Clear 30 program. But anybody has additional questions, wants some literature or some written information about CREP, feel free to call or just email, and I'll get anything out to you that you might need. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that. Jennifer, anything else to add to the committee here today?
No, I don't have anything else to add. Just if you are interested in attending any of those working group meetings, please send me an email or in the chat too. Thanks.
Thank you, Jennifer. Ben Luskin.
Hey, Brian. I think regionally it's pretty much business as usual since our last meeting. I've had a few retirements, resignations, and then some hirings going on. So working with districts quite a bit on that just to get new people up and running and trying to bridge the gap, I guess, with the current staff as or the county and the board, as some backfills haven't been made yet when the retirements are going out the door. So a lot of communication going on between myself and existing staff in the county to just make sure operations run smoothly during the transition period. On the state aid front, I'm just diving into reviewing the Part B reports now. So if I have any questions regarding the district's reports, I'll be following up with them in the next couple weeks and getting those approval memos out to all the districts. And just put out there that we are planning on doing a state aid meeting, statewide one, the first half of August is what we're looking at right now. So when we get a date on the calendar, we will be sending out an invitation to all the districts for participation in that meeting. I think that's about it.
Yeah, Ben, thank you very much. And also just to follow up on that, so the intention there would be to hold that meeting in August and then bring any recommendations for the 2023 and maybe even potentially the 2024 performance measure year to the committee for their consideration and approval. Yeah, looking forward to that. And the last time we held a meeting like that, we had really great level of participation, probably way too many people crammed into one of the smaller venues at Ag and Markets, but you know, this time we'll likely have either at all virtual or at least virtual options, so we don't have to overcrowd a conference room. But looking forward to that discussion a lot. Thanks, Ben. Bethany, anything else for the committee?
I will just mention that we do have another meeting of the Technical Advisory Committee scheduled for next week on the 28th.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It's going to be a busy July committee meeting. I can see that coming. All right. Abigail, anything for the committee today?
Yeah, just really quickly, we've got a couple of edits coming down the line on the AIM website to make the resources from the different AIM tiers and different worksheets more accessible to the public and hopefully more easily accessible for districts. Those haven't quite been implemented yet, so we'll have more on that next time we meet.
Thank you for that, Abigail. Really appreciate that. And Abigail's also been working with us to develop the 2021 annual report. I understand that that is under review. That is a report that also has to have governor's office review. So hopefully by July, we'll also have an annual report ready for sharing and distribution. If not by July, we'll at least be able to give an updated status of it. All right, thank you very much. Tim Clark.
No, I think I'm all set for today. Nothing else to report.
All right, Tim, I appreciate that. I reserved the last spot for staff updates. For me, I neglected to give a brief update on the Climate Action Council during the CRF discussion. I'll just mention that the Climate Action Council continues to meet toward the release of the scoping plan document. Again, that's out for public review and public comment. The public comment period was extended again to, I believe, mid-July. So as staff from NYSERDA, the Climate Action Council staff, and DEC and others continue to receive those comments, they will be reviewed, analyzed, and wherever possible incorporated into the final scoping plan. I was able to participate in a few of the public hearings. It was wonderful to see our public policy making in action, and really good constructive comments and discourse on the process and on the scoping plan specifically. Also, the Climate Action Council has broken into subgroups to continue to deliberate on some key aspects of the scoping plan before its final release. Commissioner Ball has been selected to participate on the alternative fuels subgroup. So that is a subgroup that will be making recommendations to the full council on the use of alternative fuels and low carbon fuels in the scoping plan and as we move forward in the implementation of Climate Act. So stay tuned for that. And the disadvantaged communities criteria is also out in public, available on the Climate Action Council's website, and they are also seeking public comment as well. So I'll try to drop a link in the chat here in a few moments to that information. So thank you. Okay, at this point, I'll also ask any conservation districts on the line to go ahead and take your phone off mute if you've got a comment, anything to report, or any questions for the committee. Now's your chance. Okay, thank you. Any members of the public or any other partners joining us today, if you've got any thoughts, comments, or questions for the committee, now's your chance. Go ahead and take your phone off mute.
Yeah, Brian, it's Scott Ryan. Just a reminder that the NYACD annual meeting is scheduled for Casanova at the Hampton Inn again, October 18th through the 20th, and Blanche has quite a few sessions already lined up for it.
Thank you, Scott, and welcome. Note for the minutes, Scott Ryan, voting member NYACD, has joined us. I really appreciate that update. Thank you for making the time. I know how hectic things are on the farm today for you. And yeah, it's great. Yep, Blanche has been working a bit with us as well. State committee staff will be providing some trainings to NYACD in support of that annual meeting. Looking forward to it.
What were those dates again?
Through the 20th, Scott.
I didn't get that.
Sorry.
October 18th through the 20th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for that. Anyone else? Any other members of the public have a comment for the committee? Any partners? Okay, Dale, I think that wraps up that part of the agenda. Back to you.
Thanks, Brian, and thank you everyone for bringing us up to date on all the different issues and what's going on with your departments and regions. Next on our agenda is going to be Resolution 22-01. Brian?
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, this is important. we're going to cover Resolution 22-1, Extraordinary Circumstances, which pertains to the open meetings law and recent amendments to that law through the budget process. So I'm just going to make this clear to everyone that the committee intends to discuss, deliberate, and vote by resolution on the definition of extraordinary circumstance in compliance with open meetings law, section 103-A. Public comments will be taken prior to the vote as well. So if you've got any comments, anybody here on the line today, please feel free to provide those comments. And certainly that also includes voting members as well. I'm going to go through Resolution 22-1. I'm going to read it in its entirety. And then Dale will ask for a motion in a second, and then we'll open it up for discussion and comment. Okay, Resolution 22-01, New York State Soil and Water Conservation Committee. Whereas by passing Chapter 56 of the laws of 2022, Chapter 56, the New York State Legislature amended Section 103 of the Open Meetings Law, and whereas Chapter 56 adds Section 103A of the Open Meetings Law, permitting the New York State Soil and Water Conservation Committee to authorize its members to attend meetings by video conferencing under extraordinary circumstances, and whereas Section 103-A, Section 2, Section A requires the New York State Soil and Water Conservation Committee to adopt a resolution following a public hearing authorizing limited use of video conferencing under such circumstances. And whereas Section 103A, subsection 2 allows for hybrid meetings by requiring that a minimum number of members are present to fulfill the public body's quorum requirement in the same physical location or locations where the public can attend. And whereas Section 103-A, Section 2C requires that members be physically present at any such meeting unless such member is unable to be physically present at any such meeting location due to extraordinary circumstances, including disability, illness, caregiving responsibilities, or any other significant or unexpected factor or event which precludes the member's physical attendance at such meetings. And whereas in accordance with Section 103-A, Section 2D, any members attending by video conference must, except during executive session, be heard, seen, and identified while the meeting is being conducted, including but not limited to any motions, proposals, resolutions, and other matters formally discussed or voted upon. And whereas Section 103-A2G requires that any meeting where a member attends by video conference be recorded, posted to the New York State Soil and Water Committee webpage within 5 business days, and transcribed upon request. And whereas Section 103A2H requires that members of the public be permitted to attend and participate if authorized in any meeting by video conference when a member attends by video conference. Be it resolved that the New York State Soil and Water Committee authorizes its members who experience an extraordinary circumstance as described above and further defined by any rules or written procedures later adopted to attend meetings by video conference, as long as a quorum of the members attend in person at one or more locations open to the public, as long as the member can be seen, heard, identified while the open portion of the meeting is being conducted, and as otherwise permitted under Chapter 56 of the laws of 2022, and be it further resolved that the New York State Soil and Water Committee shall create written procedures further governing its use of video conferencing by its members in compliance with Chapter 56 of the laws of 2022. That concludes the reading of Resolution 22-01.
Sorry.
Oh, Dale, I think you were muted. There you go.
Yeah, I forgot to unmute. All right, need a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Darren moved. Second, please. Didn't hear a second.
Trying to talk. Erica, second. Okay.
Second.
Here we go.
Erica approved second. Okay. We will open it for discussion. You want to, basically, it's going to be health issues. You're going to be able to do it remotely. If you have family issues you need to be home by, you're going to be able to do it remotely. Like in Dave's case with your knee, still out of Jefferson County would work. In my case, where I'm in Florida, I would have to open my house to the public, and I'm more than willing to do that for the meeting. Otherwise, we will probably go back to an Albany location in Ag Markets and a Syracuse State Fair location, Ag Markets again, for everyone else who won't meet the exclusions. And Brian can maybe explain better the exclusions. But it's modified what we had before.
That's right, Dale. And really also worth mentioning that, this was in response to, certainly our experience during COVID, in that many public entities, well, all public entities, in the early stages, had to start meeting remotely to conduct their business. Many continued that through the extending executive orders. We have as well through the committee. We certainly have enjoyed a higher level, a number of participants attending our meetings remotely. That's something that we want to continue to encourage. But we also recognize that as the executive order, someday will not be extended, this provides us an opportunity to continue video conference in limited circumstances, or as I should say, extraordinary circumstances, as the committee passes this resolution initially and then develops more detailed written procedures that further govern our use of video conferencing. Now, it mentions the state committee throughout this resolution. This is a standard template resolution provided by the Committee on Open Government, one where it will be replicated and duplicated across many public entities throughout the state, including soil and water districts, if they see the need to adopt such a resolution. I think this covers us in extraordinary circumstances, so it's important to bring this forward. But certainly also want to hear, from any participants who are on the line today, any concerns or attempt to answer any questions that they might have.
Comments, anyone?
Once, going twice.
Yeah, the last comment I'll make is Council's office at the department has been extremely helpful in helping us, understand these new provisions, and will also be assisting us in the development of written procedures for the committee at a future committee meeting. I'll try to make sure we get that completed, drafted for our July meeting. So again, we'll continue to seek counsel from Ag and Markets attorneys here. Specifically, I'd like to publicly just, thank Katie Howard, attorney at our agencies, been doing a tremendous service to the committee on all these issues as they are evolving now as we reach this kind of stage in COVID and moving forward with public meetings into the future. So.
Thanks, Brian. If no further comments or questions, we'll move to voting. Erica?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And Scott. Scott got aye. I think Dave's got a voice problem with it's not coming through right.
I think Rhonda's on it, so she should be able to get it.
Okay. His picture, but I didn't have his. Yeah,
yes,
we got
can,
you.
Dave.
How do you vote, Dave?
Aye.
approved. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. More to come on this. Really appreciate the time and discussion.
All right. Next on our agenda is the ethics training. Do anyone have comments or questions, anything before we move to the ethics training for the voting members? Or Brian, anything else you want to cover?
You know, thank you, Dale, for that pause, because again, this is a requirement for our voting members. It's good information for anyone who wants to continue on in attendance with us here today, but certainly not a requirement for all. With that said, maybe we can just confirm our next meeting time and date before we go into the ethics training. Yeah. I have proposed
Good
July
idea.
19th, which is the third Tuesday, trying to just keep it as consistent as possible. Right now, via WebEx connection and locations to be determined.
I'm not available then.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
Darren, how's it look for you?
It looks okay for me as far as I know.
Okay. All right. Dave, look okay for you?
It looks okay for me so far. I have doctor appointment, I'll have to change it.
Okay. Scott?
It's open right now.
All right. Well, that's the important part. It's a month away. Things come up. Might as well
Eric, are
shoot for
you
the
okay
19th.
if we hold it without you, but we'll get you up to speed and certainly have the recording available.
Yes, that's absolutely fine.
Okay, thank you for that. All right. Dale, why don't we just give us maybe a 5-minute pause, 5-minute break. Folks that don't want to stay on for the ethics training don't have to, and then we'll reconvene in about 5 minutes.
I agree. Thank you, everyone, for participating today, and we'll hopefully see everybody next month, a lot of us in person, and we'll start the ethics training in 5 minutes.
All right, thank you. And again, anybody who wants to stick around, you're more than welcome to. It's still part of the public meeting. Just want to give you a pass if you don't need to. All right, thanks, everybody. See you in 5. Yeah, we'll just give it like one more minute. We'll get started.
Sounds good.
I'm here. I'm ready. Whenever you are.
All right. Thank you. We didn't lose too many.
Can you hear me now?
See,
I was
yeah, we
surprised.
can
Yep,
hear you.
you're
Dave.
good, Dave.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you and Rhonda for figuring that out for that important vote a little while ago.
Great job. She does a lot of work on here. Nobody doesn't get credit for it.
Absolutely. Well, we recognize her contribution and give her a lot of credit. Thank you. All right. I see everyone's on. I see Scott is also on. So we have full quorum of our voting members. I'm sorry, Erica, did you have something?
Just making bad jokes, so we can move on. It's good.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. I'm going to attempt to grab the screen again and load up the presentation.
We need to keep video on for this part of ourselves for official.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. I mean, I know you're here and stay engaged, but if you got the bandwidth to keep it on, good practice to do so. All right. Let me find my presentation. There it is. Okay, everybody seeing the screen, comprehensive ethics training course?
Yep.
All right, excellent. All right, so I'm going to get started here. Thank you to the Joint Commission on Public Ethics, JCOPE, for providing this training on their website. And this is specifically for unpaid or per diem officers, state boards, councils, and commissions subject to financial disclosure requirements. That certainly includes the State Soil and Water Committee and its voting members. And again, this is great that they offer this. I was glad to learn it, and we'll make sure everybody gets credit for it once we've completed the training. There's also the plain language guide to public officers law and other related ethics laws that they make available. You might all still have that somewhere as you attended this course in person offered by JCOPE in the past. This will serve as the refresher training requirement for all of you, and we'll get right into it. Am I coming in clear enough? I took my headphones out, just letting the speakerphone do its job.
You sound good.
Okay. Excellent, excellent. So this is the mandatory ethics training. It's an overview of provisions of the law that apply to financial disclosure filers, focusing specifically on those applicable to volunteer, unpaid, or per diem officers of state boards, councils, and commissions. It is not intended for FDS filers who are also paid employees of the state. So this covers all of the committee members. This training has been customized to cover the ethics law that apply, like I said, to unpaid or per diem officers. If you're also a state employee who is subject to FDS financial disclosure rules, this training will not satisfy those requirements, but that's okay. I think we're all in a good condition here where it would satisfy our requirement. So I just also want to make sure you all know that our agency, Ag and Markets, has additional ethics policies in addition to state ethics law, and certainly they provide guidance to employees, and also can help us to seek out guidance from JCOPE itself. Also, JCOPE, as I mentioned before, makes this PowerPoint presentation available on their website. They actually do have a lot of good information in there, so I encourage you all to seek that out as a great resource for complete information. So what do we want to accomplish with today's training? First, awareness of what the law says and what regulations may apply. Second, prevention. This training is designed to prevent conflicts of interest. Third is compliance. Training is required by law and promotes trust in state officers and employees. So we'll cover the following topics here today. JCOPE overview, which includes jurisdiction, guidance, enforcement, and training. Financial disclosure, which includes overview, deadlines, privacy concerns, and extensions. The Code of Ethics, which includes the standards of conduct, reverse two-year bar, and negotiation of future employment. And finally, Civil Service Law, Section 107, which talks about politics in the workplace. So let's get started. JCOPE overview. We'll begin with a brief overview of how the Ethics Commission works to create a culture of ethics compliance. In 2007, the former State Ethics Commission combined with a former lobbying commission to form the Commission on Public Integrity. In 2011, JCOPE was established by the Public Integrity Reform Act of 2011, which greatly expanded its jurisdiction. Now the jurisdiction includes state employees, legislature, some political party chairs, as well as lobbyists. This combined the core functions of both prior commissions. And although JCOPE is often described as a watchdog agency, investigation and enforcement is only one of its core functions. JCOPE also serves an important advisory function for the regulated community. The key functions of the Commission are advice and guidance, investigation and enforcement, training and education, as well as ethics and lobbying disclosure. So we'll review those core functions briefly. Starting with advice and guidance. This is the prime part of JCOPE's mission, and that is to provide advice and guidance. It provides advice and guidance to the regulated communities under its jurisdiction. There is an Attorney of the Day program that offers free confidential guidance on state ethics laws, as well as Ag and Markets has an ethics officer who also provides a source of advice and guidance. JCOPE also wants to make sure that you have the information you need, so contact your ethics officer or JCOPE for assistance. Actually, Mike Latham, Executive Director of the committee, actually is the ethics officer for the committee. So any questions that you might have certainly can be funneled through Mike and into JCOPE, or you can contact JCOPE directly. If you call a JCOPE attorney, you'll be able to get a legal advisory opinion on your situation. And I have a mockingbird that is also interested in this presentation right now. Okay, gone. Okay. There are two types of advisory opinions. Most of the time you'll receive an informal opinion that deals with a narrow, specific set of circumstances. They're confidential and issued by the Commission staff attorneys based on prior precedent. JCOPE also provides confidential guidance by phone and email. If the situation is unique, it may require a formal advisory opinion to address your circumstances. A formal advisory opinion is issued by the commissioners on matters of first impression. These opinions are public documents with identifying information redacted. Every formal advisory opinion is posted on the Commissioner's website. These opinions set precedent for others in the future. We'll look at the core functions of JCOPE and what they are best known for now. Investigation and enforcement. While JCOPE certainly hopes that you'll never find yourself in a situation, your rights are preserved under the investigatory process. If you're going to be investigated, you'll be notified. There are no secret investigations. Investigations are private matters unless or until the Commission can substantiate a finding. Investigations are only made public after the Commission rules there's a substantial basis to conclude that a violation has occurred. And to avoid this outcome, there's also ethics training requirements. And as we talked before, this is one of JCOPE's core functions. So the reason that we're all here today and getting this training is because it is a requirement contained in Executive Law Section 94. The law specifies that this course be a live session, and you have to take it within 2 years of becoming an FDS filer. Some of you may have already taken the online ethics orientation, the only ethics class that is allowed to be an online self-directed format, but the comprehensive ethics training course, CETC, is your primary training obligation. After completing this class today, you will need to also attend refresher trainings every 3 years, as long as you remain an FDS filer. So you may retake this course, which is what we're doing here today, or take the course called Ethics Seminar to satisfy that refresher requirement. So JCOPE's final core function is oversight through the financial disclosure. So we'll take a look at that next. One aspect of ethics laws that you'll have in common is the requirement to file an annual financial disclosure statement. So we'll take a brief overview of the statement. The FDS is a publicly available record containing financial and professional information about the FDS filer and also the filer's spouse. The purpose of the FDS is to provide transparency and to prevent any conflicts of interest between a person's professional duties and private financial interests and affiliations. So who is required to file? Approximately 30,000 people in New York State are designated as FDS filers. They're policymakers designated by agencies, including unpaid or per diem members of boards and councils and commissions, such as the state committee. They are also employees who exceed an income threshold greater than a CSDA salary 24. They are called threshold filers. Elected officials and candidates, and some political party chairs as well. What do we have to report on an FDS? Basically, all the many ways we obligate ourselves financially. Since the purpose of the FDS is transparency in order to avoid conflicts of interest, the form asks for many details of your finances. The FDS provides transparency regarding how your connections with the private sector may create conflicts of interest with your public service. And transparency is an important part of public service. So even though you serve on a volunteer basis, it is still important that your service does not create any conflicts of interest between your private sector employment or investments and your service to the state. The public has the right to know that your service does not personally enrich yourselves or others. When is the FDS due? Mark this date on your calendar, May 15th, for most filers. Most state employees and officials will have an annual filing date of May 15th. This is also the deadline if you want to request an extension for filing your FDS. November 15th is the due date if you are a professor of SUNY or CUNY. Just a little bit of trivia knowledge there. When you first become an FDS filer, you have 30 days to file for previous years. Because FDSs are public documents, this sometimes raises privacy concerns. And although the FDS are public documents, they are not posted online and are only accessible by specific requests. Generally speaking, the only FDS forms requested are by the media in response to a public figure being accused of breaking the public trust. And there's certainly other means to keep your personal information private as well. The FDS filer can make a request to get an extension for filing, and those requests must be made by the filing deadline of 5/15 of each year. Redact specific information from the FDS copy that's made publicly available. The FDS filer can also seek a limited exemption for some questions regarding a spouse or minor child. But it is important to file your FDS in a timely manner, and there certainly are consequences if you don't. If you fail to file your FDS or you file a deficient FDS, either not answering a question or failing to respond to a question with a requested I can't say it. It's not specific enough, JCOPE will notify you. That's actually happened to me once where I left a question out or they needed more information. It was a friendly phone call and it was quickly resolved. If you have any difficulties or questions filing your FDS before the deadline, you're encouraged to please contact JCOPE for assistance early. Once notified, you then have 15 days to comply or correct your filing. Otherwise, a notice of delinquency is issued and made public. Are there any questions about the FDS statements thus far? I know you've all done them now, and I just also think that they make it much easier after the first time you've completed an FDS by way of reviewing and just changing those aspects that might need updating. All right, next is the Code of Ethics. This is one of the most important laws that will be covered in this presentation. It forms the foundation of the ethics laws and focuses on helping you as a state officer to navigate through the potential ethical pitfalls. This will also help you identify and address any potential conflicts of interest. So here we'll talk about guiding principles, to whom it applies, and standards of ethical conduct with examples. So the Code of Ethics will help you address conflicts of interest when performing your state duties. Whenever we think of professional conduct in state service, we always refer to the Code of Ethics and ask if a potential conflict of interest exists, especially with respect to areas of concern such as gifts and outside activities. The Code of Ethics embodies the guiding principles of impartiality, confidentiality, stewardship of state resources, and integrity. So who is subject to the Code of Ethics? It applies to everyone, including agencies, departments, divisions, boards, and commissions, including unpaid and per diem officers and members, as well as officers and employees of closely affiliated corporations listed here, such as legislative members and employees, officers and employees of state agencies, departments, divisions, and boards, and I just got to move this. Officers or employees of specific closely affiliated corporations such as Youth Research and Research Foundation for Mental Hygiene, Health Research, Research Foundation for the State University of New York, and Welfare Research Incorporation, to name a few. So let's take a look at what the law actually says. Okay. I think mine just froze up on me here, this presentation. All right, bear with me. I just got to stop sharing and reload it. Okay. General rule: you may not use your position for personal benefit. This requires us to examine activities in context of substantial conflict between public duties and personal interest. Personal interest can be for the benefit of someone else, like friends or family. And just to kind of repeat here, New York State officers and employees, members of the legislature, legislative employees shall not have any interest, financial or otherwise, direct or indirect, or engage in any business or transaction or professional activity or incur any obligation of any nature which is in substantial conflict with the proper discharge of his or her duties in the public interest. If an investigation reveals a knowing and intentional violation of these standards, these are the penalties. Violations of standards of conduct may result in a civil penalty of up to $10,000 and a value of any gift, compensation, or benefit received as a result of the violation. In addition to civil penalties, each agency is empowered to impose disciplinary actions, which may include fines, wage garnishment, or termination. So now we're going to look at the 9 standards of conduct. The 9 standards of conduct embody the rules of ethical behavior in the workplace. Standard A, you cannot accept outside employment that will impair your independence of judgment when performing your state duties. Our first standard focuses on the guiding principle of impartiality and independence of judgment when performing your state duties. So as an example, you serve on a board that oversees a contract with a private sector vendor. As a representative of the state, you're responsible for making sure the vendor is adhering to your board's contract. The vendor offers you a part-time position as a consultant on a completely different project that does not involve your board. Can you pursue this outside activity? Yes or no? The answer is no. Even though the new position is for a different project, accepting the job would create the appearance of a conflict of interest between your duties and the oversight board and your private financial interest by accepting a paycheck from a vendor you oversee. The next standard relates to confidentiality. Standards B and C really focuses on the guiding principle of confidentiality and knowing what you can and cannot disclose with respect to your state job or duties. This varies by agency, and it's important for you to know what's considered confidential in your job or other position. So you cannot disclose confidential information you have gained as a result of your state position to benefit either yourself or someone else. It's important to talk to your ethics officer to determine what information is confidential according to your state position. Standard D is about not receiving unwarranted or undeserved privileges or using state resources for your own private business or other compensated non-governmental uses. So you are a member of the State Board of Elections. Professionally, you also have your own desktop and publishing business. You may not use the board's scanners, printers, and computers and technical software to perform services for your clients, even if you bring your own paper and ink and do this private work after hours. So in short, you may not use state resources for your own side businesses, even if you do it after hours, even if you bring your own paper and ink. You would still be using state equipment and office space to further your own private business interests. That pertains mainly to state employees that also have approval for outside activities, for example. Standard E focuses on your financial conflicts of interest and making sure your private financial interests don't conflict with your public service. So, for example, you serve as a member of the Council on the Arts, which considers grants to arts organizations. You may not participate in a vote to offer a grant for a performing arts venue where your spouse works. I think that's pretty clear. Here you can see that your spouse's outside employment may create the impression that you might be unduly influenced in a grant offer process. Standard G focuses on your personal investments and making sure they don't conflict with your public service. So as an example, you serve as a commissioner on the Gaming Commission, which oversees casinos. You're also part owner of a local craft brewery that is seeking a contract to provide your product to a restaurant that is located within a casino. You must recuse yourself from commission business involving this casino and recuse yourself from decisions regarding this contract by the brewery to remedy this conflict of interest. Only by stepping aside from involvement on both sides of the business transaction can the conflict be remediated. So this is a good time to talk about recusals, which this committee is certainly aware of and practices. Recusal is often remedied to resolve the appearance of conflicts of interest. It means to remove oneself from participation, including all discussions, deliberation, and votes to avoid a conflict of interest. Even the appearance of a conflict of interest might be enough to trigger the need for you to recuse yourself from actions taken as a state official. There are times, however, when recusal is not enough of a remedy, so you should consult your agency's ethics officer or reach out to Jacob's attorney of the day for confidential guidance on potential recusals. The committee has an ethics opinion from years back that we use as a guide for our recusal process. Okay. Hey, and look at that. It actually made, I didn't put this in here. This was right out of their presentation. Advisory Opinion 0309 addresses recusals for board members and provides a good example of when that might be necessary. So that opinion that I referenced before also includes voting members or who are also district board members. I'll read this one so you guys can think about it, but you're all familiar. County Soil and Water Districts seek grant funding from a state committee on soil and water. In this opinion, JCOPE required a voting members of the state committee to disclose that he was also a district board member and to recuse himself from any vote involving a grant application from a district on whose board he served. In the opinion, JCOPE recognized that the committee's enabling legislation contemplated voting members being individuals with expertise and interest in county conservation issues. The commission also noted, however, that a member's judgment could be affected if he were called on to vote on a grant application in which he has a direct interest. Moreover, the public might well perceive favoritism in such circumstances, even if none actually existed. And we put this advisory opinion to work many times throughout the past, and we ensure that that is documented in our committee minutes. One area where this does not include is the approval of an entire ranked list, for example, where we're not selecting individual projects, but it's the approval of projects within. We do not require our district, our committee members are also district board members to recuse from that situation. Obviously, this opinion also covers where we might have farmers on our committee who are legally able to participate in our programs, but have to follow this advisory opinion, disclose their interest as a farmer, let the public know through a meeting that they intend to apply for a program, and then recuse themselves by complete removal of all discussions, deliberations, and votes for that program. So again, advisory opinion 0309, certainly one that we keep close at hand and practice regularly. And look at that, actually is on the JCOPE's training materials as an example. Okay, now what if my recusal does not permit my board or commission to reach a quorum? Obviously, we also have some example with that, or we have some examples. We have some experience with that as well. So recusals can have an impact on operational functions, but it's up to each agency, or in our case, each commission or committee, to balance those operational needs by deciding when and under what circumstances recusals are necessary to remedy a potential conflict of interest. The risk in not recusing in order to maintain a quorum may mean that board members are subjecting themselves to potential violations. So it's always important, and again, as an example, to ensure that we know who's going to be present for any particular meeting, especially when there's a recusal in process. And also with the fact that we've got multiple farmers on our committee, we also have to ensure that there is equitable access to resources through the recusal process and that advisory opinion that I mentioned before. So disclosing those interests early and among the committee has helped us to avoid quorum issues with recusals in the past. All right. Standard I says that your private business interests may not intersect with entities that are licensed or regulated by your state agency. In other words, you can't contract for work with a business you regulate. An example, you're a member of the Hospital Review and Planning Council of the Department of Health. Acme Hospital is regulated by your agency. You or business entities you are affiliated with are prohibited from selling goods or services to Acme Hospital. Standard F and H are sometimes referred to as the integrity standards, and they set the public optic test for professional behavior. The two standards do not carry a monetary or civil penalty. However, you could still face disciplinary action from your agency. Standard F really focuses more on professional behavior. If it looks like you could be improperly influenced, that's enough to violate the standard. Standard H, again, features the public optics test. You should always conduct yourself in a way that will not appear to a member of the public that you're involved in a form of misconduct or violating the public's trust. Don't act in ways that give the appearance of misconduct, in other words. If it might look suspicious, don't do it. Our professional conduct directly contributes to the integrity of state service. We all play a role in improving the culture of ethics in New York State government. Remember, the public service is a public trust, and we must all do our share to uphold the integrity of that service. Today's training is an important element in educating yourself about the ethics laws you are expected to uphold. Whenever you have questions about how the ethics law may impact you, please reach out to your ethics officer or JCOPE for help. And if you see misconduct occurring, you're encouraged to report it. We'll look at some additional applications of Public Officer Law, Section 74. We'll look at application, which includes employment restrictions in state services, includes a reverse 2-year bar and negotiation of future employment. So we'll start with that reverse 2-year bar. This is one of the revolving door provisions designed to address the public perception that people enter the state workforce to personally enrich themselves using their former private sector connections. Let's first explain what the reverse 2-year bar is. This rule may require you to recuse yourself from matters directly involving your former and current private business relationships. It also prevents the appearance that you may give preferential treatment to or be unduly influenced by by these private interests. So whether a conflict of interest results from a board member's private sector connections must be determined on a case-by-case basis. However, certain factors are considered in reaching such determination. More information can also be found in Advisory Opinions 9809 and 0704. The advisory opinion arose from questions by a board member regarding the boundaries of his service. There are questions he sought guidance for. The requesting party was a member of the state board responsible for acting on funding applications for 2 major programs. The requesting party asked, may a board member who had left a private employer 1.5 years ago consider a grant proposal submitted by that former employer? If the board member ended representation of a client 6 months ago and does not currently conduct business with a client, is there a conflict if the board member acts on a former client proposal? So such a presumption could be rebutted by looking at other factors, including whether the board member was in employment relationship with the applicant, which implies daily oversight and control, or was in a consulting relationship, which suggests a more temporary connection, whether the board member was an officer or a senior official of the applicant, whether the board member or the applicant had a fiduciary responsibility with the other, and whether the applicant is the actual former employer or business entity with which the board member had a relationship, or whether it was related subsidiary or umbrella organization, and also for how long the relationship existed. So as you can see, there are quite a few situations that might impact the decision. So encourage to please seek guidance if you find yourself in a circumstance where a potential conflict of interest might exist. There are other considerations when you leave state service as well, including the negotiation of future employment. As a state officer, there are restrictions on if and when you may negotiate future employment with an entity or individual that has a specific matter pending before you. If you receive an unsolicited job offer, or if you are interested in soliciting an employment opportunity, you may only pursue an employment opportunity after fully recusing yourself from the matter. There is additional restriction on serving in certain political offices as well as a state officer. Policymakers, which include unpaid or per diem members, must remain nonpartisan by not serving as an officer in a political party or organization or a member of a political party committee. The agency you represent, or in this case the committee, may have additional policies on conflicts of interest and outside activities. The entity you serve on should have an additional code of ethics that addresses conflicts of interest and outside activities, and we're encouraged to please consult with your agency's ethics officer or general counsel for additional information and policies that may apply to you. Next, we'll talk about the Little Hatch Act, which describes additional restrictions on political activities in the workplace. And those in state service must avoid all political activity in the workplace. The term political activity means doing something in active support of or opposition to a political party, a candidate for partisan political office. An example of that would be president, senator, representative, state or local legislature or office, or a partisan political group. In short, you may not be questioned directly or indirectly about your political affiliation as a condition of employment. State offices may not be used for soliciting or collecting any political contributions. You cannot use your state position or authority to coerce, intimidate, or influence employees for any political purpose. If you're involved in hiring potential employees, you cannot ask questions regarding the candidate's political affiliations, political contributions, or how an applicant voted in an election. Finally, you cannot dishonestly use or attempt to use your official authority or influence in exchange for political action on someone else's part. In addition to the Little Hatch Act, the Code of Ethics in Public Officers Law, Section 74, also places restrictions on political activities. Here are some real-world examples that have been found to be in violation of POL 74. No nominating positions in the office outside the state workplace on personal time is allowed. You can't use state resources to produce any political materials. You're not allowed to use state email for political communications, even if friends you know support your candidate. And if you receive a political communication to your state email address in error, delete it and contact the candidate to give them your personal email address. Even forwarding political email to your personal address is a violation because you have used state's internet connections to distribute political materials. I know you all don't have state email addresses, but still important to cover this, as you understand that this also pertains to employees that provide services to the state committee. Okay. Violations of Civil Service Law, Section 107, provide for a civil penalty of up to $40,000 in the value of any gift, compensation, or benefit received. The penalties can be substantial, so seek guidance from your ethics officer or JCOPE if you have any questions about these restrictions on political activities. Any questions as we wrap up? Okay. One of the central missions of JCOPE is to provide guidance on matters of state ethics. The purpose of this training was to give you greater awareness of your obligations under the ethics laws. But if you have any questions, as I mentioned before, please contact either your ethics officer, in that case, Mike Latham, or JCOPE. Mike would be able to get those questions to the proper authority to be able to answer those if he's unable to do so himself. A link to the financial disclosure system can also be found on the JCOPE website. And thank you all for your attention today. Like I said before, we will be able to go into the system, record your attendance, and that certificate of attendance documents that you've met your training obligation. And once your ethics officer has updated your training records, which will happen after this meeting, you will receive an automated email notifying that your training has been recorded and when your next training is due. Again, thanks to the Committee on Public Integrity, JCOPE, for providing these training materials. It really has been helpful. And going through this ahead of the meeting and certainly now, a lot of really good information there. But probably take-home slide is to make sure that you know all of this contact information and where to seek any assistance or answers to your individual questions should you have them. Thank you. I will stop sharing.
Thank you, Brian. Really appreciate you doing this.
My pleasure. Absolutely. And, I'm glad that we were able to do it, get everybody on the same schedule. Yeah, and it doesn't look like we lost too many. As I mentioned before, I was talking with Scott earlier today. I'll be providing an ethics training to our districts. Of course, it'll be more individualized to districts and district programs. We've actually had our ethics attorney for the department come out and provide those trainings with me in the past. So we'll go through this training material, our past training materials, and make sure we provide something of value to districts at the NYECD conference as well.
Thank you very much, Brian, for myself.
Yeah, glad to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else you want to cover?
Yeah, no, I think I'm good. Just thank you, and thank you all for hanging on the line here for that training. Hopefully it was of interest and somewhat informative.
Definitely. Meeting's adjourned.
Let's check the chat.
Enjoy a nice warm summer, and we'll see everybody next month.
Right.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.